Hey, dude, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
No problem, anytime.
Yeah. Before we get into the nitty gritty, just kind of, I was gonna have everybody tell them exactly what it is that you've been doing as far as the agency that you've been volunteering for. So, BTCV, if you want to talk about, I'll ask you here in a minute how it got on your radar initially, but if you want to talk about what that is as an organization.
Yeah, no problem. I'm Raul Gonzalez, by the way, and Noah, we work together. We've shared a lot of good times on the ambulance. And basically, this has a little bit of roundabout of how I come by this opportunity. It was through the ambulance and being a firefighter. One of my good friends that I worked with at Pleasant Valley Fire introduced me to this organization, and he asked me to volunteer to be a bilingual translator. And so many years ago, he asked me to participate in this, and it's called Be the Change Volunteers. And what they do is they construct classrooms and schools for children from the ground up. So if you can imagine, in developing countries, there's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape you have to go through. Maybe like a village leader, the village itself, and just get to work and get their okay and get a community involved person that we kind of orchestrate this with, collaborate with, community involvement, and the school gets built. It's not really a one-shot trip deal. It's built in stages throughout either 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, however long it takes.
Yeah, I saw on the website some of the locations, like even as early as the first school that they went to, they still go back and make some upgrades and things like that as well. So you might have a trip each year to the same spot. Maybe the school's built, but you go back and you refurbish or rehash some of the infrastructure as well.
Yes, so the one that I was more involved with that kind of tells a story of what BTCV is Peru. So there's this community out in the middle of the jungle in the Amazon, and it's close to the largest city in the world, not accessible by car or road. The only way to get there is through a boat or through airplane. And it's called Iquitos, Peru. And it was famous at one time for the rubber tree tapping, of harvesting the rubber sap to build or to make tires and such those type of materials. And the community that we are involved with is called El Chino, Peru, which is a small community, about 150 to 200 people. And their school during the rainy season would get flooded. The government, when they came, they didn't ask any community involvement. They didn't survey the land. They didn't even ask anybody about how to go about putting a school there. They just came with their money, plopped the school, and for many years they would just, because the water level rises during the rainy season, would flood the school. The kids had nowhere to go to school during that time. So if you could imagine a section of a jungle that the BTCV and the community involvement decided on, it was just literally the jungle. So there was many projects between like 8 or 10 years that slowly one of the steps was clearing out all the brush was one project, and we left. And then the next year it was bringing in the materials to start building the school, and so on and so forth. So it took many years to finish the high school that they requested.
And this was Peru?
Peru.
When was your first trip with this foundation?
My first trip was in 2017 or 2018 in Puerto Rico. because Hurricane Maria had hit the island, and we knew that they needed help there with schools and teachers, and to help the teachers.
And so somebody you were working with brought it to your radar, and so your first initial job was for you to come on as a bilingual translator?
Yes, my friend Grant, he was the director of the organization. He had flown because his wife had friends from vet school that were Puerto Rican, and they lived in Puerto Rico. And the hurricane hit, and they could not get a hold of anybody. So he, long story short, he just grabbed like a bag of cash, and because he was an EMT, he was able to request to fly there as a first responder, and they let him on board. And he went throughout the island with cash in his hand, because cash is king. He was able to maneuver his way through the island searching for his wife's friends. So there he grouped up with another gentleman, CP, which they started like collaborating and helping. So not only did he help find his wife's friends, he saw the need to get in there to start helping the people, and what he saw and how this directly impacts the organization is that for the lack of water, lack of electricity, all the teachers were leaving and families were leaving the island. So when somewhat things were normalizing, schools were back in service, but there was no teachers. And it had a lot to do with water and just the instability of the situation. So he was able to collaborate and purchase hundreds of filtration systems for water and hand them out to communities and to especially the teachers, and cash, and got BTCV involved to say we need to come and do some beautification projects because the government was slow moving and trying to repair. They're maybe using an excuse of the hurricane to shut down schools, so they were merging a lot of schools and around the area. So if you had like one school was 200 students, by that year it was like 400, 600 students to one school.
Wow. So when Grant first went down there, he wasn't initially linked up with BTCV?
Yes, he was the director.
Oh, he was.
He had already been 7 or 8 years involved.
And when he requested that you went down there, had you done anything like this, even remotely?
No.
So what did you expect, and then what did it end up being like?
Well, initially I thought it was just going to be a one-shot type deal, just help my friend out. And so once I got there, I got the scoop, kind of the rundown of what I just gave you. He explained to me how this came into fruition. And there was the BTCV group, which was about 12 to 16 people, and we were to maneuver throughout the island. So not only did I have to drive a van with the group, anywhere we went, the majority of the language that was spoken on the island is Spanish, even though some parts are bilingual. And some people sometimes choose not to speak English. They feel more comfortable in their native language. So I was able to navigate the group through the project, and then once we got settled in, I was basically like the gopher. Like if the group needed anything, I was in charge of meals, getting meals for the group, supplies, anything for the project that we were building. So yeah.
Okay, so logistically, what was your travel like for that first? Because I'm sure that was, if you had never done anything like this before, and now you're going into essentially, third world, like what was that travel situation like, and was it surprising?
Definitely, because I knew I wasn't packing for all-inclusive type of situation or travel, which I've done before. So I knew that it was almost like having the background, having our background in it's community service or public service. How we are called to respond to help people in public service. Basically, that's kind of what it felt like. Like, hey, I need you to come here and help me through this project. You know, not only is it a community involved and there's a mission behind it, but the people are paying, and the business side of it, people are paying to come and participate in this project, and it has to be run as smoothly as possible as can be. You do go through bumps and hiccups here and there, but that's where we come in as a group, a strong leadership group, to try to smooth those things out. So no training, you were just like, so that's where the good thing, that having that public service and just having common sense and just having a worldly outlook on things, and the culture definitely helped out a lot. Just being able to be comfortable there, being able to speak Spanish and being able to relate to people and have that the common language, the common culture. So that's what's probably what helped me through all those.
So were you the only person that had the job of translating for that trip?
For that initial one, yes.
Wow. Was the Spanish the same dialect as you were comfortable with, or was there a gap between how even you could communicate being bilingual?
I believe that there was not so much of a gap between, per se, how I speak Spanish, being of Mexican descendants of Mexico, but probably just personally my level of speaking Spanish wasn't as sharp, or just something that's not fine-tuned because I don't speak it every day. So that kind of limited me. But once you hit the ground running, you start immersing yourself here more and more and more, and just more speaking it more with people. You kind of it's like a tool. You find you're filing the tool and making it better and better. So,
did you speak Spanish growing up in your household?
Yes, it was my first language because my parents didn't speak Spanish.
Your parents didn't speak English?
Yes.
Where are your parents from?
My mother's from Mexico. She's from Guanajuato, which is the central part of the country. And my dad's from the northern part, which is Nuevo León and Monterrey.
Sorry to ask, are they still alive?
No, they're not. They're not alive anymore.
Okay, sorry to hear that. I was going to say, what an amazing thing for them to see that you've done, right, with something that's difficult. I mean, being bilingual is incredibly hard, and to maintain that and then learn English and then use those skills. So when you got down there, you said there was a little bit of difficulties with you keeping up on the Spanish. What else? Like you just said, you didn't know what you were packing for. I mean, was your mind pretty blown initially, or did you feel like it went smooth?
No, because my friend being a first responder as well, he kind of gave me the lowdown of what to expect. So packing and being ready for something, being a first responder kind of got me in that mindset that you're going to be responsible for this group of people, to manage them through. It's not so much of a touristy situation. It's
right.
It's a cultural exchange. It's an embodiment that's different from a tourist or you know what I mean, like a traveling trip for vacation. It's more different than that. Even though we do get to have experiences in the culture, but it's not like a carnival cruise where,
But even going down there, you think, okay, this isn't a vacation. This isn't what I think it's going to be. But then you get down there, and I read a lot about like the empathy response that's kind of unique that people don't realize they're going to have to just seeing the culture, and sometimes it wears pretty heavy on them when they get down there and see how these people are living. It's difficult for people like us who might have never experienced that before to see that with their own eyes. Was it pretty shocking?
No, being a part of Latin America and my family being from Mexico, I've experienced similar things that tied us together. So it wasn't that much of a culture shock, because again, speaking Spanish kind of binds you in a different way, where you're immersed into their lives and you're able to ask questions. If you not necessarily shocked, but if you don't know, I can do something that a person that doesn't speak Spanish or that language, they can't do. Because usually they're calling, a lot of times that this happened, that's why I'm there, is the people who are there are like, hey, someone's speaking to me, what are they saying? So now I'm translating, so now you have a third person in this social interaction. Whereas having that benefit, I don't have that third person, so I'm able to just either keep asking questions, immersing myself in that culture, learning as we go, and that's what for me is probably the difference.
When you took the first trip in 2017, 2018, how long were you slated to be down there?
It's a 10-day trip. 10 days.
And what was the goal for those first 10 days? Not for you specifically, you were translating, but what was the goal for the mission?
The goal for the mission, it varies, but usually it's something that will benefit the school there. And then for that particular trip, and Puerto Rico is very different and a very specific project because it's part of the United States. So the infrastructure is already set up, and so we're there more to help in basic needs and what we can help them more to advance their mission, where it be like painting, beautification, any gardening, things of that sort.
So on this trip to Puerto Rico, were you officially linked up with the group that, the BTCV, or you went there because your friend was linked up?
It was because my friend was linked up.
And then later you had your first trip with the nonprofit organization. That was Peru, correct? Am I tracking?
No, he went down first when Maria hit in 2017.
To Puerto Rico.
On his own, to find his wife's friends, and then he came back to the founders and to the board to say, hey, there's a need over here. Puerto Rico is losing all of their teachers and a lot of other people. It is just as simple as of a fix of water filtration or electricity. And if we would be able to give those type of opportunities or gifts, maybe we could stop some of the families from leaving the island and going to the United States.
Okay.
So, because a lot of people don't want to leave the island, but they did. Some and a lot did because of necessity, because of it, providing for their families. So BTCV right away said, yes, this is something that we could get behind, and a lot of the projects were because some of the disasters that happened through Maria, the hurricane, like trees and vegetation was knocked down, that it's kind of supportive to the infrastructure or to the school, like creating shade or providing fruit or different gardens and things like that, different foliage, if I'm saying that right. So we were able to beautify the school with some gardening and things like that.
So down there on that first trip, the school was not completely wiped out?
No, it was not.
Okay, and you said there was also a need to get teachers, right? Because some of the teachers were leaving. So how did you guys tackle that?
Well, not on that trip, but beforehand, and there was what raised the need for me to be there. There was a trip before mine. There was a project already before mine in Utuado, Puerto Rico, which is in the center of the island. And that's when the need for someone who was bilingual, and he thought about me, because when he was down there, he was by himself. He did have a graduate student from a university, and she was not always with him at all times, and he needed somebody with him at his hip, and someone like me, because he didn't speak Spanish. So getting materials, buying the food, it was just a work in progress each and every day, and a lot of yelling, a lot of hand gestures, a lot of trying to translate. So he struggled a lot. So he came back after that project and asked the founder to say, hey, can I bring in a friend of mine? He's bilingual, he's a first responder, he's a hard worker. Can we just have him participate and pay for him to come down and volunteer his time? And that's how it started.
When you look back at that trip, not to, stroke your own ego, but do you think it would have been pretty difficult to get his mission done if they had not found you or someone who was bilingual to come in and take over some of the communication aspect? Like, do you ever sit back and think, well, damn, I'm glad they found me, because it was a nightmare getting down there and, not being able to communicate?
Yeah, it's difficult. It would have been different. It just makes it a little harder, yes.
During those 12 days that you were down there, what other tasks did you have besides the communication? Were you involved in any of the manual labor? I mean, it sounds like painting and things. Did you also help with that, or was your job pretty full up with driving around, communicating?
It's a balance between both. So I would get there as a pre-plan. So we would get there before the group gets to the island, and my job was to help get any type of equipment and that we needed for the project. And my job was to drive. And a lot of people don't really leave San Juan, because it's kind of, San Juan is like the capital, and it's kind of like New York City, and it's very beautiful. It's by the beach, but a lot of people don't know how to go to the center of the island, because it's very hard to navigate through those roads. It's kind of like it's smaller than a 2-lane road here in the United States, probably like a third of that, with 2 cars going into the mountains.
Yeah.
So that was a big feat. And then, yes, my job was driving, making sure everybody was safe, getting around all those logistics, getting the equipment, anything that would be requested as far as what we would need, or that person, an individual would need. All the meals, 3 square meals a day, I'd have to be on top of, because you start getting hungry adults and workers, how that could be, you could have a little revolt.
Yeah, getting a little hangry.
Yeah, so being on time, getting those meals. If there's any restrictions, any type of food allergies, I have to know about those and navigate through those.
Did you guys land in San Juan?
Yes.
And so how long was the travel to get to where you needed to go?
It's about an hour and a half without traffic, but with traffic, it could be about 2 hours, just if you take your time and don't push it.
And you said there was no training per se. So when you get down there and now you're having to drive and navigate, had you done any of your due diligence here, if any, to be, even watching YouTube videos to see how the navigation would be, or was it all on the job?
It was all on the job training.
Whoa.
There's nothing that will prepare you for driving in the jungle, in the mountains of Puerto Rico.
Are all the cars right-hand drive?
No, they're like here.
They're
right.
left. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you feel any like imminent danger on your first trip?
No, because they're the most sweetest people. There's no predators as far as animals. There's nothing that will eat you or kill you animal wise. So there's maybe spiders but stuff like that. So environmentally, there's nothing that'll scare you. The people are awesome. Whether you can't even communicate, if you were to go down there, you'll figure it out. People will be nice enough, or there's a lot of veterans that speak English that we found. So.
And what about like the gut biome here for the Western diet? Do people get sick?
No, it's only if you have an allergy or you're not in tune with fried foods or pork or some sort of dietary restriction. But no, everything is just like being here in the United States.
And to get a lot of the resources, you said you were doing a lot of the communicating. Where were you getting the resources as far as from the food to if you needed building materials?
Yeah, the cool thing about Be the Change is that we always try to be homegrown and be local. So we would go there first, even though, like I said, Puerto Rico is part of the United States. There's Ponce, which is another about 45 minutes from where we were at, and Ponce is the opposite of San Juan on the island. So you could go to Home Depot. There's Sam's. Okay. There's Walmart. So if we needed something over the top that we didn't have readily available in that small town, or a certain board, whatever, yeah, we would go shop there and get it. But we try to stay local, shop local, and the food vendors, I would try to like culturally keep everything, somewhat culturally, available to the group so they can experience the food. And
so were you pretty involved with the budget then, as far as they said, hey, Raul, this is how much we have to spend, and maybe the local vendor isn't able to supply you with that, so you have no choice but to go a town over and go to the Sam's Club? Or how did that all work as far as what you had control of money-wise?
The cool thing about being in Puerto Rico, it's pretty reasonable. Food is pretty reasonable, so that wasn't an issue. But having great board members and great founders of the organization, they want to take care of the people that go. So that's number one. Not like safety, accommodations, the best that we can provide in keeping costs low. But food-wise, we're not going to do steaks and lobsters, but as long as they're being fed well, good food, good cultural, local food, there's no expense for that. So that was cool.
And so in Puerto Rico, what was the local response like? Did they help cook meals? Did they help with the manual labor? Or was it most of the group that you guys brought down doing a lot of the work?
One thing that I've experienced is in the beginning, people don't understand what is taking place. So they're a little standoffish, and you're trying to build that rapport. You're trying to build that friendship and those relationships. That's why it's so important for this organization, not only here, but like in India and Malawi, all these other places that we go to, Peru. But after that groundbreaking initial, like, okay, this is BTCV, this is what we do, we're here for you. BTCV is not coming in saying, hey, in order to get this money, get these resources, you have to do this. Or we're coming in and this is what we think you need. It's quite the opposite. So we build this great bond and friendship and relationship where they're saying, hey, this is what we need. And then they take that back to the board or to the founders and say, this is what they need. What can we do within the budget, within raising funds, and what the mission of the BTCV is. And then they go back and say, hey, this is what we're able to do. This is the X amount of money for this project and this. And we're going to send a team down. We think we can accomplish that within 10 days. And they're like awesome about it. Like they're so appreciative about it. And yes, then from the first point or first project, now it's all hands on. Parents are getting involved, teachers are getting involved, students get involved. It's a whole community.
How long after the hurricane did you go down?
I think a year, because they went down after it happened in 2017. And then the second trip, the second project, I was called in to participate. And for 10, 11 years now, I've been going.
When you left on the first trip after the 10 or 12 days, was there quite a bit of work left to do? Like, was a return trip imminent, or what was the status of how you left that project?
The cool thing about Puerto Rico, and this is one thing that I am proud of, is that I believe most of that, all of the projects that I've done and worked with BTCV with there, they've all been completed by the time we were done there.
So on that specific site, did you guys return as an organization there ever?
Yes, we've been there 2 times, and actually we're going back this March. This will be our 3rd time. So if you can imagine the relationships that we've built there, and I still keep in touch with them throughout the year, and they're like family to me.
Wow, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
When you got back home, when was the decision to go to the next trip, and where was it?
The first time around, the first trip that I came back from is Jimmy Cook and Christy Cook, the 2 important people that founded this organization, came to me. Jimmy was like, I want you to Puerto Rico's cool. Puerto Rico was a great experience, and we got through it, but I want you to really get to know what BTCV is. I want you to because, like, again, Puerto Rico is part of the United States. The infrastructure from the ground up is already there. And a place like Uganda was not. That was an eye-opening experience where they built a school from the ground up, literally from dirt up. And that's BTCV and Jimmy Cook. He was like, are you willing to go? And I'm like, count me in. I'm really willing to go to explore and see the world. And
so Uganda was the next place.
Uganda,
that you went? And
yeah.
How long after your trip to Puerto Rico was that?
Puerto Rico was in January, and then Uganda was in June
of 2018. So what was Uganda like, and what did you know going in? What was slated for that mission?
That was completely different outlook than Puerto Rico, because I'm monolingual. Now I'm the tourist, or now I'm like all the other Americans that are going.
Yeah.
I don't know my way around, or could possibly ask how to get myself around, but in that aspect. So, and I was not a leader or co-leader of that build, and so I was there just to work and just to see how this whole organization works.
So for this trip, it was to build a school from the ground up.
Yes, we were building another classroom and living quarters for the women, for the young girls, because in Uganda it costs too much money to travel back and forth from home to the school. So they have like a housing area where they still stay there year round, or they go home only on holiday, or they go home when school's out of session.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
So what I participated in helping was the quarters were already built and the walls, but the center of the square where the young ladies would travel through, like either to the bathroom or to play, kind of their open area, their common area, was all dirt. But when it rains, they track mud and so on and so forth, and get everything soiled. So what we were able to do is throw down this mosaic type of rock, slate rock down on there to, because putting concrete down would have been too expensive or something like that.
So the ultimate goal for this one was to get the paveway or the paver, which was this mosaic rock, on this trip. How many days were you in Uganda for?
Another 10 days.
And what was the travel like to get there?
Ooh, that was the longest time I've ever spent on an airplane. There was 3 airplanes. There's 32 hours to get there.
So take me through it, like flying out of the United States.
So from Kansas City, we went to Detroit, and from Detroit to Amsterdam, from Amsterdam to Rwanda, and from Rwanda to Uganda, Kampala.
And how many days did it take you to get there?
It took a whole almost 2 days, day and a half.
Were any of the flights sketchy? Like after you got to Rwanda?
The Rwanda one was just because it was a smaller plane.
Yeah.
So Rwanda to Uganda was probably like another 45 minutes to an hour or so.
How many of the volunteers were from Kansas City that went with you on that specific trip?
I believe it was just 2 of us, me and Uncle Al.
And did you guys link up with more in Amsterdam?
Yes, it's a group of people that came in from Florida, Ohio, I can't forget, but
Yeah.
various places.
And when you get to Rwanda and you take the smaller plane into Uganda, how many people were on that plane?
All of us. I mean,
How many total people were on the trip,
like
roughly?
on that trip was like it was a pretty big group, about 17 or so, 16 people.
And so you've been to Puerto Rico, and they are kind of pre-warning you. It sounds like we want you to get the real experience. Was this any more surprising than you could ever imagine, as far as living conditions, food, and all things logistically?
Yes, very much different from Puerto Rico, and you can't. So the pre-planning that the director was doing at the time, the pre-planning to get all the supplies was very, very important, because the store was like 2 hours away. If you forgot a board or more rock, it had to come in from 2 hours away, and then it would probably take a day or 2 to get there, because they're not driving like trucks of gravel or whatever to you in a snap of a finger.
So were all the materials already down there when your plane of 16 or so get there?
Yes, everything has to be pre-bought, sorted out.
One thing that I was doing some research, and do you guys start working sun up the next day after you get there? Or how do they space you guys out as far as the labor?
It's a good full 8-hour day. We try to because we look at the project that we have in hand, and the type of people that we have with us, because not everybody is what their capabilities are. Some people have never painted, and some people have. Some people never had a hammer in their hand. So we have to deviate that the best way
And who assigns those roles? Is that the coordinator from the get-go?
Yeah,
or
the
is it
director.
kinda...
The director does, but it's also like very friendly, very. I would say pleasurable. It's a very laid back. Like if you're not comfortable doing something, no one's gonna ask you to say, "Hey, you know, you got to shovel all this concrete," even though we know you don't want to do it, or
Right.
stuff like that. So
And I assume there has to be a portion of the group that's some type of skilled tradesman, especially when you're doing things like making an addition on a school. How do they recruit for people that they know are going to be able to get the job done?
sometimes there are people who have a lot of like handyman, a lot of different skill sets, but we use a lot of local. We hire people locally, carpenters and builders and engineers locally, and we work hand in hand with them because we also want to be mindful of a structure and mindful of having something that's going to be sustainable. Not not to say that if we hire somebody that's a home handyman that owns a home, or someone like me that owns a home, that now I know how to build a school, and then we don't want the legality or the safety of it all. Basically, it comes down to like something crumbling down around the children. So that's why BTCV hires local help, local professionals, and we work hand in hand with them to get the job done.
And I guess this is probably a really ignorant question, but what was the language there? And did they have a translator set aside?
Yes, our local partners, they spoke English and their local language, which I don't know what. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I mean, Ugandan.
Yeah.
Or I do know that in many African countries understand. What's the other language that they locally?
Let's see. He's gonna pull it up. Can pull it down. English. Yeah, I did see Swahili.
Swahili. Thank you. Swahili is a
little Ninth and Woodland there.
Exactly. I was gonna say something like, "Hey, we run people like that culture," but
okay. In Uganda, what were your concerns, if any, as far as safety, all the way from? I mean, I know it sounds ignorant, but like, gangs or violence to food. Was there a separate set of dangers that you had to prep for that type of trip?
Well, definitely no preparation, but concerns. And I think that the founders and the director have already built these solid relationships there. That's how important those relationships are, that people put their trust into that when they hear not only BTCV, but they know Jamie and Christy Cook, the founders. They know the director. They know what entails, that behind the scenes, that these relationships are being made, and word is bond. So if they say this is good, people have to believe that and put their trusts in those relationships and into those people. But yeah, anything in a developing country, in Uganda, can spark off something. And then another step that the organization takes, that we buy global insurance. It's where you pay a fee to where like these paramilitary people come and scoop you up.
Oh.
And in case of a crisis or an uprising, all we do is get on the phone and these paramilitary troopers come and fly in and fly us out if anything was to happen. So I forgot, it's called global insurance, or
Wow. What about the living conditions there for the volunteers? What was you work an 8-hour day. I'm sure you're fucking exhausted.
Yes.
Did you have access to showers? What was that like, hygiene all the way to sleeping?
Yeah, the cool thing about Uganda was there was this little local motel that we stayed at. So you had your own room and shower, and it's warm. It's hot as hell, so you don't need AC, just a fan. But the very cool thing about BTCV that I've admired is that so you pay into this project, let's say $2,000. I think that is what it costs, $2,000. You're set up logistically for 10 days. With that money, and you get 16 people to go, that's a good chunk of money, right? So, yeah, when we use that money, we could spring to get an Airbnb or get a 4-star hotel, 3-star, 4, whatever it may be, highest of the highest of luxuries. But those type of luxuries come at a cost, because then you have that budget from the people that have paid into this, but then less of the money goes towards the project. So it's basically you're not only donating your time, but you're donating your money for this project, and you're watching your money, your treasures, get worked.
One thing that I was reading into was kind of the stigma on voluntourism, and you had kind of mentioned, it's not a vacation, but I think ultimately a lot of people do pay to go do that because they're good-hearted, but also because they want to have an experience, whether it's being immersive into the culture. When you are done for the day, what kind of opportunities did you have to do any type of tourism?
Yeah, so the other great thing about BTCV and this sort of project is that throughout the week there's sprinkles of cultural exchanges. So you're immersed not only in the culture, but you get as involved as you want with the kids, reading to the kids. We take day trips to go do some sightseeing of local history, some museums, go to a local church, where they may welcome us in with a special ceremony at their church, things of that. So we call them cultural exchanges. So throughout the week, it's all planned out by the director to provide that for the people.
Do people, when you pay in the $2,000 and it goes into the basically general fund, for lack of a better term, do you also pay for your person to get there? Or in that $2,000, does that include your ability to travel there?
So you have to also take care of your own logistics, but it used to be $3,000, and they used to take care of it for you totally, completely.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are asking, well, I have points and I have these gift cards and this and that, and I want to take care of my own logistics. And there was some pullback on that for many years. But then I think to lighten the weight of the whole situation, and people were finding better deals or able to use their points. So the organization said, that's fine with us. Just make sure you get to point A, because then if people don't make it to point A, they won't having to have, to go get them, pay an extra money to go get them, or so on and so forth. Just logistically, it's gonna, mess everything up. But
so for you, the first one you were funded because they needed you, and then this one they want you to come take this trip to really see something that's incredibly unique. I mean, what an amazing thing for you to spend that type of money that could have been a vacation for you and your family. I mean, it just speaks to the type of heart, you guys have, not even you specifically, but these people that are willing to spend a large amount of money to go there. And yeah, like you said, you get to do something there unique, but you're not sitting on a beach at an all-inclusive, and you're also building something that might have never gotten built without your guys' help.
Yes.
Were there any incidents at all that were scary in Uganda?
No, nothing like that. But we did. There was on our way out on our bus going back to Kampala to the airport. There's a lot in developing countries. A lot of people use motorcycles or these little mopeds. And there was this young lady with her significant other, and she had a dress on, so she was sitting sideways while he was driving the motorcycle, and her dress got caught in the wheel, and she sustained pretty good road rash. And so it was 2 EMTs, and we had a paramedic there. So we had our med bag. So we got off the bus. We pulled over, got off the bus, and helped them out, bandaged her up. And another group of gentlemen or workers had this pickup, and they were nice enough to say, "Hey, put her in the pickup, or we'll take her to the hospital." So,
did you witness anybody that needed life-saving care on this trip?
No, that was probably the most. When you asked me what most exciting, that was ordeal. That'll stick for me forever.
Yeah.
The way that the organization was able to provide a good med bag, and there's very intelligent, highly intelligent. There's vets, and we luckily had a paramedic, and then my friend Grant and I were EMTs, so we darted out with no questions asked, grab the med bag, let's assess the situation and help them out.
And that's all random. They provide you with a med bag, but there's no assurance that you're going to have an EMT and a medic in your group, correct?
Well, that's the good thing about having me and asking me to go, because there is a med bag, and now if I'm available, I'm going to be looked towards and well capable of taking care of the situation, hopefully within my scope.
When you went and did, you went out and visited a church, or, you went on these excursions, what was the most memorable thing about the Uganda trip that you did outside of the labor?
I think the most memorable thing for me was the short ride, because we got picked up in a truck and we all hopped up in the back. We're all partaking in this ride to the work site, to the school. So it's about a good 10, 15 minute ride from where we get picked up every morning. And just like you said, there you're fresh, you're ready to go, but it's the coming back when you're tired. You just want a hot shower and a good meal and good people to be around with and share the day's experience. So just having that ride back is probably the most memorable one. Seeing the sun go down, the people are wrapping things up for their days, and they're out in the country, whether they're farming or walking or leaving school. That'll always stick with me. That was a short ride. And
what happened after Uganda? What other trips did you make after that?
I did Peru.
And how much time had passed when you went to Peru?
The following year, I went to Peru. So 2019.
Dang.
They asked me to go to Peru. So I did Puerto Rico, and then I did Peru that year.
And what was the mission in Peru?
The mission to Peru was to finish up the classrooms in the high school because in the beginning that's what the school was being flooded. So the previous groups had already cleared out that huge, I want to say it's like 10 acres of land, all by hand with machetes from years prior.
So the clearing was one trip, and then they went back and they built a school, and then was this the third trip to that location?
Well, so there was a process because you got to put the school in stilts. You got to form the school. So there was a series of trips, kind of like I explained how sometimes the school doesn't get built at one shot of a trip. Right. So there's stages of it. So that school couldn't be placed on the ground because of the flooding. And they picked a site far enough back to where the water wouldn't get there, but you can't take that into account. You have to be mindful that the water could come back and rise up over here. So the stilts, the columns, the concrete columns, and the flooring was built first. And then that was one trip, and then the following trip, then the walls, and then the roof. Then they had thatch roof. The one time, one trip, I think the schools were pretty much finished, and then they requested more classrooms, and then somebody donated money to have tin roofs. So all the thatch was removed on one trip, and tin roofs were being put.
What's thatch?
Thatch is the palm, the kind of like the.
And does it
the trees, the tree leaves?
Okay, yeah, I did see some
kind
photos
of huts.
Of that. Yeah. So a tin roof was a huge upgrade then, especially for if they're getting condensation in water.
Yes.
What do you remember about Peru?
The people, the resilience of the people that live out in the middle of nowhere and just they make it happen. They make life happen. They have no other choice but to keep pushing forward. You know, this giving them the light of education and some sort of opportunity is, and being able to share that with them. But I think their resiliency to strive and thrive, and to take that gift and just to run with it and to say, yes, this is important. We see the value of this for our future, for our children.
As far as population, where was the most populated place that you've been, where you were surrounded with the most amount of locals?
Probably India.
And okay, so after Peru, was India next?
After Peru, I went to India the following year, 2020.
And what month was that? Because that was a big year for everybody with COVID.
Or it might have been 2021.
Still right in the middle, though.
And right after it, everything kind of died down.
Where in India did you go?
Man, we went far east to Assam, which is by the border of China and Bhutan and Nepal. Oh. It was something. It was like landing on Mars.
Where did you have to fly into to get to India?
New Delhi.
And was it a pretty lengthy road trip from there to?
Yeah, because we went from New Delhi to Bihar, and then from Bihar we took a train, and then a train to Assam, and then we took a bus from where we left off. The train left us off at Assam. To the school was another like 45 minutes.
I want to come back, but besides India, do we have another country to add? So we've got Puerto Rico, Uganda, Peru, India. Where else have you gone?
That's it.
That's it. Was India one where you got to get there with where the slate was 0, where you guys were building from the ground up, or did they already have something going there as well?
Or at
In India, like when you went there and you're doing a school there, was it an addition, or was it a piece of the school, or was that one where you got there right at ground zero?
No, they had already started.
Okay, so what was going on in India then?
So they started a school from the ground up, but they requested help with finishes and secondary flooring, and I want to say a tin roof. So after they built the structure and the floors and the walls 1 year, and then they put the tin roof. By the time I got there, they needed to finish the secondary floor, which is so when they built, like when you build concrete flooring and levels of 1, 2, 3, 4, the initial concrete flooring is rough, so it's kind of like it's just filled in as is, and it sets. But they call it secondary flooring because then that's the one that they're going to polish over and scrape and level out and do a fine finish.
In this specific community in India, when they decided to go there, do you remember like what the conversation or what the need was and why that location was picked?
So my friend Grant, his father is a philanthropist with a co-partner in, I believe, in Bihar, and he already on his own Grant has already had experience with philanthropy and building schools per se because of his father and his father's business partner. They believed in in their faith and Christianity and education, and they built it's called the Emmanuel School of English. So they built this great facility, great school campus. So he has a friend who married a young lady from Assam. He's from Bangladesh, I believe. And he was working there at the school with his father. And this is Gulshan is his name. And he met his wife there too. So they pitched it because Gulshan's wife was like, hey, we know this couple out in Assam in my village, and they're trying to build a school also, kind of like what you did here and what this BTCV. So this young couple in Assam basically started a classroom out of 10, and they would just hold classrooms in like just a room like what we're in. So it started from there, and so on and so forth. It just grew into this huge facility where they now, they teach all the basics classes of academia from like science, English and reading, IT stuff like computers. And
The reason I asked is because I did a little research on the founders of BTCV, and it sounds like their first project was because of a school in '94 that essentially got wrecked because of a genocide. And then you mentioned the flooding in Peru or the hurricane in Puerto Rico. So I wasn't sure how do they find, like for this India project, I'm sure there's a need for tons of schools, but what kind, was there a devastation that occurred that in this specific location that caused them to pick this, or how are they locking into these certain locations about where they need to put these schools?
So that was by word of mouth. So was Uganda. So usually it's by word of mouth, and it starts there, and then they get the okay, the nod to say, well, this sounds promising. They have a basic application process. So then now, when you get into the formality of it all, then there's a simple, basic application. The people fill out, and then that gets submitted to the organization, and they look it over. And they get tons of these,
I'm sure,
every
yeah.
year. And then that's what they pick up the project from. But the backbone of the decision is having a good community partner.
Okay.
Because if you don't have a good community partner to have the relationship and have sustainability for the future, then they probably don't. I don't want to speak for them, but I think that's because I'm not too involved with the decision making, I should say. But I believe that they just won't go there because, as you could imagine, that there's people who, take the money and they don't want to,
I'm sure,
use the money for other purposes and things like that. Or
yeah, I mean, I know corruption and waste is some pretty aggro terms, but I mean, ultimately, if you're funding something and spending, probably tens of 20s, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you work with the community partner and the school folds over,
Right.
the next year. What in India, what were your outings like there, as far as what you got to experience on the days that you were done working?
Very minimal, because we were out in the rural part of India. The part that we went to, man, the way that my friend described it is like, this is the type of area like National Geographic comes out to. Like, there's tourists, common people do not say, hey, I'm gonna go to Assam. So there's nothing really there to do. It's very country, very rural. But we did do an outing. We did like a little safari walk through this patch of land that joined it up with Bhutan, the country, and we were able to pass the border into Bhutan. So I could actually say I've been to Bhutan. I got pictures. And that area, I was told that for 30 years or so, the rebels were living in there, and there was not people weren't able to go. It was on no access for like 30 some years because there was all this fighting with the Indian government.
Did you get to experience anything in the bigger cities like Delhi in India? Did you, I mean, you landed there. Did you spend the night there by chance?
Yeah, we stayed there and we did a lot of sightseeing on our way out.
Oh,
we
wow.
do some culture exchanges. We went to some museums. We went to this really cool, the Lotus Temple. It's like it looks like a lotus flower, and inside is very quiet and very peaceful. It's that type of, it's not a religion, but it's something to where it's open to all nations, all cultures, that's what it looks like right there.
Oh, that's great. Did you do any of the street walking in Delhi? Just because I know it's fucking crazy just from the videos and images I've seen.
Yes.
And did you get to experience any of like the trash catastrophe with the rivers and things there?
Just see it out of the bus. There's cremation. They cremate people in public.
What?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So when we went, so if you go by a bunch of rivers or streams, there's these platforms, these concrete platforms, and they cremate bodies as part of their ceremonies.
Yeah.
Hindu.
Wow. Is BTCV, are they faith-based at all?
No, they're not.
No, because I know some of these trips that also build, they like to also spread like Christianity and things of that nature. But there's no drive to bring any religious aspect on any of these trips, specifically, I guess.
No, that's kind of what I kind of fell in love with also, because even though I have my faith or my beliefs, this organization doesn't push that. They already have their beliefs or their structure of faith there in their community. So they don't come in saying, in order to get this help, you have to follow this. That's what I kind of like fell in love with right off the bat.
Did you build any long-term relationships outside of the Puerto Rico trip?
Yes.
Any of the locals that you still talk to and stay in touch with?
Peru, and I don't talk to Gulshan, but I know that I could reach out to him, but I know him from India.
Yeah. How amazing.
Uganda, I don't talk to them as often anymore, but I know I could reach out to them.
Did any of the projects for BTCV, have any of them stalled?
Yes.
And
the one in Uganda has stalled.
And what's the difficulties with that?
The difficulty there, I believe that I don't know too much of the background story to it, but the vision of the school and the leadership, we just weren't getting back the information. The BTCV was not getting back the information that it was required. So, in trying to be sustainable and know where all the the funding is going and how it's being used, we need reports. There's simple. I think I've never seen these, but I believe they're just simple reports. And I say simple only because we want to be respectful also of people's time and their energy. We know that they're busy, either whether they're running a school, they might have their own, families or other things going on in their lives. We don't need to add, this. Hey, we need Excel spreadsheet forms and all this other busy work. So that's why I say that as far as simple information, 1 or 2 sheets, and then that wasn't being reciprocated. So I think the BTCV just decided to part ways from that.
Have you haven't gone to a new country, but you've made some trips back, right, in the last few years? Or have you not made a trip since India?
Personally or with the group?
Well, personally or with the group.
I've been to Puerto Rico without the group. I went to vacation there.
And did you get to make it to where?
No, my friend didn't want to.
I gotcha.
I get there and he's like, I just want to be on the beach, and I'm like, oh, I had all this stuff that I wanted to show you.
Right.
And he was like, no, I just want to stay by the beach, and he wanted to be on a vacation, which was fine with me. I mean, just go with the flow, right? Just you don't want to be butting heads on a vacation.
So you haven't made a group trip since India. In your future, do you have something planned?
Personally, on my own or with the group?
With the group.
I think that they parted ways. That's another one that they've parted ways with. And I think that one was because it's so hard to get to.
Puerto Rico?
No, India.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people don't sign up for that project.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
Because it's during the raining, outside of the raining season, it's opposite of the time people take vacations. So it's around like the winter, early winter, like January, February, March. and it's not very. Everybody just came off of holiday, Christmas, and New Year's, and they're getting acclimated to the year. Where when we put out BTCV would put out a group together, go to India, like not a lot of it. That, and then it's so far away to go to get to, like 16 hours plus all these different ways to get to Eastern India.
But with the group, do you have plans to make another trip soon?
In March 4th through the 15th, I will be in Puerto Rico again to the same where I started on Juntas, Puerto Rico, on the center of the island.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome! And so, what's the goal for that trip?
The goal for that trip is we're building some prefabricated little buildings, which here they would kind of mimic those sheds, like a garden shed, but they're a little bit bigger to where you could hold a classroom, I believe. So we're gonna do about 2 or 3 of those in Puerto Rico. And one other thing that BTCV is branching out to is the special education section or branch of seeing the need and the importance of education and the lack thereof in developing countries. It's very sad to say, coming from the United States, where our public education system tries to cater to everybody's needs, and that being one here, could there be improvements? There's always, but we understand that is a need that is covered as far as special education, learning disabilities. Here in the United States, they try their best to try to accommodate for that and budget for that, and people go to school, go to university to be those type of special teachers. Man, when you go to developing countries, it's a sad thing to see, where it's already very hard to see how education there is, the difficulties, and why we're there, and we recognize how important it is. But when you add that component to where the budget doesn't allow to help these kids, and how they're just pushed away and cast away to nothing, to not be seen, to not be dealt with. So BTCV's gone on this addition, like I said, this branch of SPED, a special education department of. That's what we're doing this time around in Puerto Rico, because there is a need, and budgets sometimes and governments don't allocate for that, and there's a growing need for in every society in Puerto Rico, like autism, mentally challenged and behavioral.
And does that start with bringing somebody who's trained from here to who's bilingual, maybe, to train the teachers down there on how to deal with those specific things? Or what's the approach that's going to be taken to do that?
Definitely. We have a great addition. She's a director of change, Maddie. She got her master's in special education. She went to MU in her undergrad to get her education degree, and I think she specialized in special education, and she is currently at Vanderbilt. So she was brought in by Jimmy and Christy Cook to lead that way of her with her expertise in education.
And so will she be down there just for 2 weeks, or is it something where you might bring someone in like that'll need to be down there for 6 months to get a curriculum started?
Definitely, she's gonna be leading our group. She's the director of change for the organization, and whatever it needs and whatever it fits with her schedule. I mean, if the organization says, "Hey, can you go during the summer?" Because I believe she's a teacher full time here at in Tennessee. I think I would. I don't speak for her, but I think that she would go. Like if or she's in constant collaboration with the teachers down there and the social workers to build a strong curriculum and to guide them through that. But definitely, if I think she's needed, an organization wants her to be down there, or other countries that this is going to be a part of. I know in Peru they've already started also something there as well. Definitely, she's totally hands on.
When you talk about like special ed and kids needing special needs for, you know, autism or mentally handicapped, is that something that you guys identified after getting down there, or is that something that they were having to plea for as well? Like, as far as the locals there, is this something that they brought to your guys' attention, or is the need for having additional help in the schools for special needs students, was that something that you guys picked up on the tail end of being down there several times?
Yeah, I think it came about asking questions and developing those relationships, because that's something that just kind of was discovered through those relationships and asking questions, and as far as what is needed, what is need-based here in Puerto Rico and Peru. And once that is, there's light shed on that, then you start seeing it, not only being told, but that you're seeing the kids, and, you know, if they're being out, you know, the different amenities that they had are like kind of crappy, or where they're at, or, you know, pushed to this corner, or they're only allowed, you know, an hour or two a day versus, you know, a whole day of school. So we start grappling and getting all that knowledge.
Does BTCV, do they have meetings after these trips, almost like debriefings of how it went, and to help start to look at improvement for the following trips?
Yes, and they also send out a survey with a variety of questions and to get your feedback, and then they gather those, and they have discussions over what took place, what the surveys say.
I wanted to ask about like metrics. So you go and build a school, and I know, like, let's say you started in 2018, but in 2028, 10 years later, you might have a 12-year-old that's 22, or you might have an 8-year-old that's 18 now. Do you guys have an ability to measure metrics in the community? So, like, for instance, hey, we need this school, a lot of people are undereducated. Is there a way to say, hey, we went and built this school, and 8 years later, now we have 50% of the population able to move out and work in some of the bigger cities with education? Or how do you guys measure the success of your guys' projects?
Definitely, there is, where the director of change, when they go to these projects, part of the time that they're there is not only guiding and making sure that the project is getting finished, but they're taking times throughout the day while they're there to sit with the community partner, to sit with the teachers, to sit with the community, to gather all these metrics, to answer any questions that they may have, and to ask all those questions. And they bring back that information, and they develop a spreadsheet, or get all that knowledge, and they discuss it back here at home.
Do they monitor? How big is BTCV as far as the people outside of the volunteers? Like the intrinsic group of people who work for the actual company. Do you know how many there are, roughly?
There's only 3 to 4. I think there's only 3 but there's only 1 employee that's there that is a paid person, which is the director of change from what I understood. And then there's the founders, and then there's a handful to, I don't know, about 20 or so people who are advisors. They just help. They read all this information, and they're just a talented group of people who just advise and give their opinions on how to go with this information, or what's working, what's not. It bounce back. But there's two founders now, and Jimmy and Christy, but they don't get paid or.
Right, I guess I was
So there's
just
only
trying to
one.
understand, like, if you go do a project in Peru, instead of leaving them hanging, I'm sure there's a group of people who are in constant contact to follow up and make sure that things are running smoothly. Is there, like, a management entity that does take control and is in constant communication? Because let's say BTCV isn't slated to go back to Peru for 3 years, or 2 more years. How closely are they able to monitor what's going on with the work that they've done?
Definitely the director of change is in charge of all that, and keeping those relationships strong and having that constant communication throughout the years, from start to finish. So that's what, I guess you could say, that's what they get paid for, or that's what their passion is to keep those lines of communication open and gathering all that information that you're.
Is there a protocol in place if you build something and then the next year it gets washed away and maybe you don't have the funds right away, or it's not on the agenda to go back? Do they have like an emergency group of people that are able to go, on the turn of a page or on the turn of a dime, flip of a dime, whatever, to like go help? Or has that ever been a situation where you've built something and then now it's just falling apart, maybe not physically, but whatever it is? And do you guys have the ability to have like an emergency group of responders to go out to an area and rehab whatever it is, that instead of losing it all?
Right.
Does that ever happen?
No, that's never happened. Thank God. We've built pretty good sustainable stuff that I know of, like inclement weather, stuff like that. It has never damaged anything as of yet. But if Jimmy and Christy would ask me to go to help out, at a drop of a dime, I would go. I know that there is people out there that if that was being asked of them by their organization, and this is what is needed. I think there's a group of people. There's a lot of good people out there that have previously gone on these trips, that believe in those projects, that they would do their best to try to go. But there is no like set group or team or paid,
Yeah. Is most of the funding from the volunteers, or do they also have donors and private donors that just donate to the cause?
Yeah, they have many great donors that donate to the cause, because there's many forms of giving, there's many forms of participating, and that's the great thing about this organization and other organizations, nonprofit organizations, that like time and resource and your treasures, are part of the two most important or most needed things when it comes to donating. Because in this organization, you can do both. You're going to donate your time and you can donate your money. But there's people out there that, don't wish to go pick up a broom or pick up a brush. They're happy with, hey, I know you need this to go. I know these treasures to go to accomplish that. And that's greatly appreciated, because, again, there's very many different ways of contributing to a cause. So,
Yeah, it's full circle. I'm sure it takes everything from money to laborers to the people that are God willing to go.
right.
Are there any recurrent conversations of things that just can't be tackled right now that are problems that you guys continue to run into? Like, if money wasn't, a factor, is there anything that really, maybe down the road, would really change how you guys do the work?
One thing that I know that like in Peru was a need at one time, but funding and the whole logistics of that getting it done from point A to point B per se was the solar. There was a need and an ask for solar panels and electricity at the schools to run, the projectors or stuff like that, and the radio system, I believe, or computers. But when that came to us, there was a bit of a pause. I believe that, if I can remember, I'm not too knowledgeable on that subject because I'm not involved with those certain projects as far as the asks. I'm not involved or in that room. But I believe, to your question, that's one thing that I could see it like being presented, because it is costly Peru to get all those materials all the way out there, and then the person to go all the way out there to install it properly, and not to be building some sort of junk work, that. So, but not really. Everything, there's a lot of asks, and then they go back and review, and definitely they do turn down things that are either not in the budget, there's not enough resources monetarily, or it's just not something in the mission. Like if there's an ask that's outside the realms of education, or I know that one thing that we couldn't fully contribute or put efforts in was electricity, because it's, as far as outside of solar, that's another budget line. Who's going to pay for that as far as sustainability? We could come in and provide you, the lines, the breaker box, and get those logistics handled. But then there's a need now to be budgeted in sustainability. You know what I mean? So that was something that I know that, like in Uganda, it was not a line item that we were willing to collaborate with them, or an ask that that BTC was like, yeah, we could provide you all this stuff, but who's going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Are you going to be asking the organization to pay your bills? They're supposed to be self-sustaining. We're supposed to be there for an education overall purpose.
You mentioned computers, which I think is huge. Is that something that's, it's a necessity for us because of where we live, but how often is technology a necessity for these places that you're building for? Do most of them end up getting computers or any type of adaptive virtual learning, or is that not even on the agenda for most of these places?
It's definitely a want and a need because of the global economy, the globalization of technology. And so definitely that is a want, but do they all get it? No, not everybody gets it, but there are very generous people out there within the organization that have donated computers and things of that sort. But I know, like in Puerto Rico, a friend of mine, Eric, he's gotten corporations to give their secondhand stuff or what they've had laid around, and we package those things up and we travel with them back to Puerto Rico. I know like in India it's huge. Technology is huge to like get people into education, to get them into like university programs, knowing how and
Hey, get our credit cards, things like that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I was gonna ask you, is BTCV all word of mouth, or do they have like a ground crew that doesn't necessarily door knock? But I mean, you need so much money to get these things done. You know, I checked out the website. Obviously, you can donate there, but do you know, is a lot of some of the bigger funding come from private donors, or do you guys do like operations where you go around and spread the word of what you guys are doing, like feet on the ground type stuff?
Oh, no, not that I know of, per se. There's a little bit of everything. I take that back. There are people who do fundraising. One thing that's great about this, there is a template. There are people who will show you if you're like really, really interested in doing this through social media. You know, you're able to try to fund your way through a project. So there's a lot of people that do that. There's a lot of people who come back from a build and maybe they can't go, but they're like, man, we believe in this community. I went there, and they do certain fundraisers to give to the organization, take that money and give it to the organization. Like there's a young lady down in southern Missouri that did like a 5K or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And
to get herself there?
To get herself there.
I gotcha.
Right now, the main thing is social media, like Facebook, IG. It's on there to promote if you want to go and how to get there, and then the website and word of mouth and private donors.
How has it changed you to immerse yourself in this type of stuff and to go out to these countries and do this work? Has it changed your whole perspective on life?
It has definitely changed me. In so many ways, and it has helped as much as I've helped these communities. Not only I think they've helped me more than I helped them, and this organization has helped me more than I've helped them. I'm like in debt to this organization per se. And dealing with being a public servant, the things that we go through, the kind of like the mental toughness that we sometimes lack of doing this job, the monotony of the everyday grind and public service, and the lack of being appreciated of what you do. In the years before this, grinded me down to where I was just like, what am I doing? Like, but this kind of like resurged that it'd be about helping people and being appreciated in some way as a human being. So when I go do this and I'm in these communities and they look forward to seeing you, they know that you're coming to help. They see you, and you know you're bringing these treasures in different facets. You know, that's how it's changed me in one way, and it's just another pillar in my life to where it also keeps me accountable, not only for my job, but as a person. It's a pillar to say, you know, you got to stay in a straight and narrow, man. You can't falter. You have all these people counting on you. You know, you have to have this because I don't have a family. I don't have children. So it's kind of like a divine intervention to put this pillar of sustainability and growth and toughness to keep going through life. Because I could only say about friends that do have families or have kids, that's what they live for. They live for their kids, they live for their spouse, for their partner. They have something in their lives that pushes them through. Well, I don't have that. So luckily, divinely, this organization, these people brought that to me, this cup to sip from and to fulfill me in that way, because as I love my job, but it's only so many times you get beat over the head that it takes a toll mentally on you. And it's good to get away from that, refill your cup, come back full and ready to go, ready to keep helping.
Yeah, I mean, what you talk about there is just the double-edged sword. It's almost so much easier as a first responder at the beginning because you think you're doing so much good. And I can't imagine that the feeling of what you're doing, going on these mission trips and breaking ground on these schools. For one, you say you don't have a family, but now you have an extended family across 4 countries, And then 2, that first couple calls or that first couple years you work as a first responder, you feel so good when you go up and get that old lady's keys for her, or lock her door. And this, I can't imagine, is probably tenfold the amount of appreciation and accomplishment that you feel when you come back or when you're doing things like this. For your personal journey, where do you see yourself going? Do you see yourself continuing to go on these trips? Do you eventually want to try to get into becoming part of the foundation of the company or a company like this? Or when you picture your life, is this something you ever see yourself stopping?
No, at this moment, no. I'm at their mercy. I am like I said, I'm in debt to BTCV, to Jimmy and Christy, because they have allowed, and my friend Grant, because they allowed me to partake in this and to fill my cup, per se, in life. And so I'll always be around as long as they ask me, they want me around. I will always be there for them. But so when that time comes, if I'm not needed, I'm okay with that, because whatever outside of me happens, but that's, and with my cup being full, it can't stop. So let's say for whatever reason they don't request my services anymore, I have to continue on to fulfill that cup somewhere else and fill in other people's cups throughout life.
Is there one project maybe you've already been on or in the future that you really want to go to? Like as far as returning to some of these places or stuff on the books, is there something that you absolutely have to do?
Definitely, Puerto Rico has been the one that's fulfilled me, mainly because there are citizens. Being Hispanic is the tie. Our language is we're tied in to the history, but the military service. I have family members that have served, and knowing the level of commitment that the island and the Puerto Rican people have sacrificed for us, militarily wise, that history and binds me to that project, to the people there. That's the one that I always and hold dear to my heart, mainly because they're the American citizens. They need help. They need our help. They want our help. And I can't give up. We shouldn't give up on them because they're our citizens.
Well, man, dude, the courage, the selflessness, and the wherewithal you have to keep doing this is really amazing, and I hope you realize that. I mean, I think you're an incredible person, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share all your journeys with us. I think what you're doing is incredibly admirable, and hopefully Bad Bunny sees this and writes you a full check to go back to Puerto Rico and and keep doing it. Hey, man, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. And shout out to Ishmael.
Ishmael.
Oh.